All right, guys, welcome. I believe we're live. Welcome to another Wednesday night mixing live with me, Ed Thorne, from edthorne.com, here to try and help you guys make the most out of your home studios. I've had a couple of technical difficulties today because my other screen is broken, so I'm trying to do it all off one screen. So funny stuff's going to pop up on the screen at any random points. But I'm going to try and keep it to a minimum. So today we are mixing the guitars, the electric guitars in my song Angel. If you've been following this series, you'll know that we've mixed the drums, we've done a session overview, we've mixed the bass, we've mixed, what else have we done? I feel like we've done more. Feels like we've done a lot more, but we are actually only up to the guitars, and then we have keys to do, and then some vocals, which I need to re-record some of when I've got rid of this cold, which is not ideal. So on the guitars, we have my dear friend, David D'Andrade, playing. And David is a wonderful friend of mine, one of my favourite people in the world, and he is a phenomenal guitar player. I've left all of his details below. Check out his Instagram. He posts loads of really tasty stuff. Check out his YouTube channel because he is releasing music as well, including this little song, which I happen to play drums on. All right, so David writes, he's written all that. I gave him a drum part, the 12/8 shuffle thing, and David just composed this entire piece off that. We had the wonderful Matt Holland doing the brass there, and Andy Carr on bass, who's a well-known London session bass player. He's played with some wicked 80s bands. So check out David if you want to hear some incredible guitar playing and some phenomenal musical writing as well. He's really pushing himself with that at the moment, which I admire greatly. So on this track, David is a PRS endorsee, and he has his 509, I believe, and a PRS John Mayer version Silver Sky, which I think has to be my favourite guitar. And for this session, we were going through the MEsa-Boogie TA-30 head on screen now, and then into a huge pedal board into a two-notes Torpedo Captor X, I think it's called, the little white box that looks like an uplight. David played a few guitar parts for me. Let's isolate them. I'm assuming if you've tuned in before, you know the track. I suppose we could have a listen, couldn't we? So in the song was built on the drum part and the keys pads, this one here. So in the beginning, there's not really any need for any guitar strumming loud rhythm parts, but they come later on in the song to help create some dynamics. So the first thing David wrote was this beautiful EBow part. Which, if I'm not mistaken, was two or three. That's three parts, I think, spread between two stereo. They're panned either side. I can't quite remember what I did in the original session now. I think we had two parts spread, panned left and right, and then he's doubled those, but I've just summed those onto one stereo track for the final mix. So those are going nicely in the background. We have an acoustic guitar part, panned either side again. And then we have the lead guitar part as well, which we wrote together. And straight away there, I'm hearing all that low-end resonance that we don't need. And immediately, if you heard that high-pass filter coming on, that has cleaned that high-pass shelf, sorry, that has cleaned up that signal nicely already. Further on in the track, we have more guitar parts. We have some slamming bridge rhythm parts. We have some stereo panning going on around the keys solo. And then we have some heavier parts towards the end as well, but we'll get to all those in a little while. So let's listen to those three together. Now, these were based around the keyboard parts, so let's put those in as well. So immediately I'm hearing I need to do some EQ to separate the keys and the guitars there. However, I'm not going to do that until we've got to the keys week, which I'm going to do next week. I might be working next week, so it might have to be the week after. TBC. So what I've done with each of these is I've done a little bit of EQ. Let's look at the EBO. Tiny bit of channel EQ there. Again, high pass up quite high. The acoustic guitar, again, high pass to, what's that, 150, and a couple of little notches. I've gone for a linear EQ rather than a dynamic EQ because these are pretty consistent parts, so there's not too many fluctuations in EQ going on. And I've put a LA2A compressor on that. We'll have a listen. Let's have a listen to that now with and without while we're here. Down with the EQ, very subtle, and with the compressor. Just to catch, slowly, gently catch some of those little peaks there. Nice. Now, I've panned the acoustic guitar slightly to the right, and then the lead guitar slightly to the left for some separation. The keys pads are going down the middle. The pianos will be going down the middle, but they're stereo, I think. Yep, they're stereo, so they will be going left hand, right hand. And on the lead guitar, a little bit of dynamic EQ here. Let's solo this one. So this is without any processing. So straight away, there's a couple of little buzzy frequencies, and we need to put a high-pass filter in. Let's listen to what I've done. I did pre-mix this the other day, actually. So if you're new to dynamic EQs, they are your best friend with vocals, bass, keys, guitars. I don't use them on drums for various reasons. They're quite fixed with their EQ, so I don't really feel like I need to use them on drums. But on acoustics and electric guitars, they're really great. So you can see these curves here are static for the most part, but when there's prominent frequencies coming through, then they're dipping, but only when those frequencies or these curves here are particularly prominent. So they're not cutting those frequencies out all the time. Love a dynamic EQ. And straight away you can hear that clears up the sound loads. Without. With. Straight away that cleans things up. And I've added an 1176. I'm not really sure why. There are some quite quick transients there. The 1176 is going to catch those peak transients, the quick ones. It's a really quick compressor. And then the LA2A is going to smoothen out the rest of the signal and give it a fuller sound. And also, if you push the output gain on this, you can really get some nice color out of this, which this UAD plugin does really well. And that is a happy accident, having that channel EQ after the processing. And I'm going to leave it there because I think that sounds good. The next thing I've done on that is adding in a reverb. So what I've got on this bus here is a AMS reverb. It's not particularly long. It's a short decay. It's just less than a second. Pre-delay of 14. So this is going to thicken the sound out. Short delays are really good for making things sound a bit girthier. I mean, that's not subtle though, is it? That's quite a lot. That's an interesting effect, not a traditional chorus effect. I don't know what that rattling's about. Loses its definition. Let's go with what I had. Ambience, take the decay time down to 1 again. Pre-delay up to, where was it, about 14. That'll do. All right, I can only assume that crackling is actually the plugin emulating how the real hardware units sound, which is interesting. Let's listen to those now in the context of the full mix. That reverb is not ideal, I don't think, at the moment. And I just feel like that's adding a bit too much. It's making it sound like it's in a swimming pool, isn't it? So let's spin that off. Let's take the pre-delay down even further. And of course, because I reset the channel strip, it reset the volume to 0. So that's why that was a bit overbearing. Let's have a listen to some more guitar parts. In the chorus, we have this little guitar part coming in. Ooh. Nice. And there's a cheeky sus chord turnaround at the end there. So again, a high pass filter and Pro Q3. What have I done with this? So straight away you can hear without that. And with. Just adding a little bit of low mids. Well, I guess standard mids and a little bit of top end there as well. And slightly curtailing the nasally frequencies in the vocals. We should hear that in context with the vocals, so that'll make sense.
Will you take me by surprise? Will you take my breath away? Will you take me by the hand and lead me out into the night? In this world. I saw a demon by your
right, second verse comes round, and we have this cheeky little guitar part that I'll centre, but I have panned all the way to the left. I haven't really done anything to this other than high pass and a low pass, so it just sits in the middle of the mix and doesn't really get in the way of anything. Let's solo that. So it's a percussive, rhythmic part. This is something David's really good at. Now, initially, when I went to do a rough mix of this, I actually binned this part off because there's an arpeggiated part going along with the keys as well. So it became a bit of a production choice of which one do I prefer. Let's have a listen. Leave your votes below. And because they're doing 16th note rhythms, slightly different registers, which is how they kind of work, I did end up bringing it back in. And I'm not sure which one I'm going to keep, or if I'm going to keep both of them. That's going to be a decision I'm actually going to make later, because I think as they are, because they're not the same notes, and they're not quite the same movements, although they're the same rhythms, I think they clash slightly. But again, in the context of a mix.
Demon by your side, immerse you in the anguish of your pride. I saw two colors in those eyes, catch the shadows of heaven, my heart was breaking.
So just obviously to exaggerate them there so you can hear them working seamlessly in harmony together. I've forgotten what level that was at. And then as we move into the second guitar, second chorus, the guitars come back again. The acoustic guitars, the EBOs are coming back again with this, similar to the intro. So they were panned hard left and right. That is a stereo track if we zoom in. And the acoustics. And they're building up to the bridge section, which kicks in there. Speaking of the bridge section, we have more guitars coming in, and this is where things get a little bit heavier. Yes. Now, to make these sit in the mix, again, high-pass filter to about 100, because the reason I've done this, actually, is on its own, it actually sounds quite good, being really beefy and girthy with all the low end. However, with the bass guitar, it clashes quite a bit. So that's without. Let's solo the bass. With the high-pass filter. Let me give more of a run up. So straight away you can hear that sits better with the high pass filter in, with the bass. And with. Could even do a bit more. So I've EQ'd that with a slight dip in the mids there, because I wanted some separation with the other guitar when it comes in, on which I have put a slight peak in the top end, and I've put the high-pass filter further up to give it some more separation. And hopefully that's working. Let's have a listen with and without the EQ on this bridge lead guitar part. Next section, let's listen to this in context, because we move into a keys solo here. So what we did with the guitars, as you can see here, I've got solo guitar left, solo guitar right. Let's listen to those quickly. And hopefully that panning's coming out. So you've got the doom da da doom da 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 out of one side, and then the response on the other side. And underneath the organ solo, that sounds like this. That's just to create some dynamic texture, something different. We've not used that trick in the rest of the song, so that should hopefully give some contrast in the background. I'm not sure if it clashes with the solo in hindsight, because we want that to be the focus, but I think it's low enough in the mix that it's an interesting texture rather than an ear-pulling, distracting texture. This is more of a production decision than a writing, recording, or mixing decision. And then we're back into another chorus. We have the EBOs again, the acoustic guitars, and the rhythm guitars we've heard already. So with all the guitar parts, by the way, I think this might be my shortest live stream for two reasons. One, there's not much to talk about with the guitars because David just sounds phenomenal, which is why I use him on every song I've done. Me and him work really well together. He intuitively knows what sounds good for the song. He turns up and his equipment sounds amazing, which is a lesson to anyone trying to be a session guitar player. Turn up and know how to make your equipment sound great. So straight off the bat, I mean, this, you can see I really haven't done much to any of this. Now, the point of this live session is to mix this, but also I just don't need to do that much. I think it's going to be more a case of balancing the guitars with the keys, which I haven't looked at the keys much at all. So similar amount of, barely even looked at them. Bit of EQ just to get a rough mix. So I will need to dive in and make sure they're sitting in their relevant frequency ranges, which I'll hopefully do soon. We could get into that a little bit now. Then what I've done with all the guitars is they are all going to a guitar bus, which is bus 5, which is this one here, and again. And I could apply some compression, but do we need to? The thing is, all these instruments are coming in and out all the time. I just don't know that we need to. Let's solo the guitar bus through this second chorus. So in terms of processing on the guitar bus, I just don't think I need to do much. What I've done is mixed all the levels on each channel, as you can see there. So they're panned and leveled to levels I'm happy with, and then they're all going to the guitar bus. And then I can basically just mix using the guitar bus, which is here. Which, if you've seen my overview session, which I think was live stream 1, you can see I've got a keys bus, a guitar bus, a strings bus, a bass bus, and a drum bus, and ideally they'd all be next to each other. I need to figure out how to move them next to each other in Logic. And then you just mix off those buses once all the inter-bus levels are fixed. What else to do processing-wise for these guitars? That was one thing I needed to do. So we have 2 massive guitar slides coming into this outro bridge, I think it is, here. And I think I needed to do something with them. Now, straight away, I'm hearing a clash now with the strings that I've had done. So it's a question of which ones do I prefer? Because I don't think they work together. This is just no strings, just the guitar slides. And obviously, they need to be way louder in the mix because they sound badass. Maybe if they're louder, they won't clash with the strings. What are the strings doing at that point? Might need those fixing. Yeah, I'm going to bin the strings off between those two bars. I think they sound phenomenal. Jez Davies, who has played keys, and we're going to mix those in next week or the week after because I might be working next week. He's really good at tweaking all the little the minor details that string players would do. You know, the bowing directions, coming to the end of a bow, starting quickly, slowly, whatever. I can't remember the word. Accents and information they need to sound amazing. He's wicked at programming it. All right, so the next thing to do would be to listen to the guitars with the bass. Let's go back to the beginning and do just the guitars and bass. Let's see how they're sitting in the mix. Chorus 1, a little bit lighter. I think they're sitting well. Let's go for the bridge. And I think I want more presence from the bass. This is a bass mixing issue. Yeah, it's not loads of 3K. I want that to be wider. So what I'm doing here is trying to do, that's the one, is widen the cue point on this dynamic EQ for the bass. So I want the low mids there at about 300, just to dip a little bit more. Let me think about that. I think we're getting away with that, though, because the crunch of the guitars is creating that separation. And the way I recorded the bass, I didn't capture enough top end. I could put in a... Ooh, we had the Gallion and Kruger head, didn't we? Oh, yeah, and I hated it. I remember. Saturation on the bass. Yeah, I want a bit more crunch on the bass. Let's dial that saturation in a bit more. So that is a parallel send on the bass, which I've got a feeling I've automated. Yeah, yes. I'm ahead of myself. All right, so I've automated the parallel saturation on the bass to come in heavier in the next section. So I've already done what I meant to do, but I want that to be a bit higher. So let's go all the way up. Now with Logic, if you want to change the automation on the entire track, instead of me, for example, dragging this bar here, sorry, I probably can't see that because of my little window. Instead of dragging this bar here and pulling it up, and then this bar here and pulling it up, if you had hundreds of automation notches, that would take years. So the best thing to do is just affect the trim on the channel strip there, and you get to this by pressing A for automation. Now I'm aware what that has done by pushing the parallel send is actually boosted the bass volume. Never mind. Let's ditch the bass off and listen to how the guitars sit in context with the keys. because these are likely to clash. That seems fine. But when the piano comes in, they're getting a little bit lost. However, without the pad, they're actually all right. So it's the pads there that are making me feel like the piano is getting lost slightly, I think. Yeah, so what can we do with the pads that's going to help the keys stand out? We have boosted about 1.5k, so if I take 1.5k out of the pads, that should help give some separation. Let's give that a try. Yeah. All right, that's helped. The pads are all encompassing. There's a lot of low end in them. Because there's so much low end in them, let's bring the bass back in. I mean, the pads are meant to be in the background anyway. Okay. That's one to think about. This is kind of final mix tweak stuff, I think. Let's go further down. So let's... keys and guitars minus the bass for the second verse. Second chorus. Now at that point, I would automate the keys to the pads to come up in volume, and I will probably go through and automate the keys. But I won't do that in a live stream because that'll be very boring. In terms of frequency separation, it's pretty much there. Let's add in the bass again just to check. So the question is, can we hear every single instrument? I can hear every instrument. Maybe that's because I'm used to listening to it. Can you guys hear every instrument in this section clearly? Everything's sitting reasonably well. This whole track has bothered me from the start because I do want to clean it up somehow, but I can't quite decide how I need to clean it up. This might be a song, actually, and this would make for quite a good live stream to get someone else in as a second set of ears to mix through this. I'll think about that from another live stream. But so far, I think everything's sitting okay together. Let's put it all in the mix. So immediately there, I know I need to automate these keys parts, because here, in between those string parts, there's some percussive Elton John style piano parts that need to come up. These ones. So that's an automation thing to get those to pop out. I don't think there's anything on the guitars I need to automate, because there's no real lead parts. Still undecided about the second verse part here. So, all right, let's do a brief rundown of what we've done to the guitars. Ebo part. Let's loop this intro. Lots of reverb. Could even push that a bit more. Acoustic guitar. And that's helping with a little bit of separation. Not digging that reverb, I might come back to that. I don't want so much of a drop with the dynamic EQ on that lead. Although that is taking away the harshness of those peak transients. So, yeah, what I wanted there was a bit more top-end simmering in the percussive lead guitar part there, which I know I've taken a lot out on the dynamic. That's to help just soften the sound of some of those harsh transients without... It's not necessarily a compression issue. It's just that the tone of that is a bit harsh at that point. And I want that to kick in earlier. So those are the main parts in the intro. Very little EQ. High pass filters on everything just to keep it clean. Notching out a few frequencies that are clashing with other stuff, including the keys and the bass. Very little compression, just a little bit on that lead. 1176 to catch the peak transients. LA2A to keep it smooth and full. I might push that a bit actually. It's fine where it was, but I do want a bit more level out of that. I'm just taking the reverb back on that because it wasn't gelling. That sounds like it's on its own in a swimming pool elsewhere, but you can hear it at the same volume. Got to be careful with reverbs for that reason. So what would I do? In terms of automation with these, I think did I do some with the stereo left and rights? No, let's check that. Now, what I'm seeing is some overlap with the slide Let's just check the slides are right. Question is this slide coming in? So this is beat 1 here, but there's a David's slid into it. But with the slides, do we need all 3? I'm thinking probably not. And they can maybe come off a little sooner. Do they clash? Yeah, so I want that to kick in there. And then I want those out. So, simple solution to that is this. There we go. That's punchy, isn't it? That's punchier. Again, this is an editing thing more than a mix, but oh my God, it all blurs into one these days, doesn't it? In context. Now, the question here is, if I drop these out, is that going to be more effective again? These should be in a group because then I can edit them at the same time. Groups active. Let's put them in a solo guitar group. New group. Solo guitar. Now, groups are amazing. So what I've done there is I've put those into their own little group. So basically anything I do to them will now be done to both channels. If you watch here, there we go. You saw I clicked on there and that cursor came up then as well. Yep, that's pretty cool. But I can hear a slight tail in. Let's take that out. And then at these exact points, I'm going to take out the other guitar slide by doing the opposite. But let's put groups back on so that I can affect these two at the same time. So with one dropping immediately and one coming in, how does it sound? Is there a gap? Let's have more of a run up than that. Ooh, that's quite clean. All right, and there's a tiny little crossover point, almost a gap, that I think works nicely. That should create a more punchy, effective transition. It's subtle, but I think that works. I'm just going to do that. And reminder, press save all the way through. Oh yeah, we were going to try and beef up this bridge guitar, weren't we, at the end? Does it need any reverb or something? Let's try adding a reverb, because I want this section to be huge. Option, and I learned a new technique from someone commenting on a video this week. Option click on that turns it to 0 without needing to double click. So that icon comes up, and pressing 0 and then enter. Option click. Genius. Let's find a reverb. Now, I might go for the CLA Epic, and I want to find a big guitar sound preset with lots going on to make that sound huge. Guitar wall of sound, that sounds like the one to me. Woohoo! And in isolation. It's not doing loads. Maybe we can push some stuff. Right, I do like that. The thing is, David's so good with his sounds, he's kind of gone for a sound that sounds huge anyway. I just want to make it bigger because it's on its own. These are 2 guitar parts. We double-tracked everything in there, split left and right. So there are 2 parts going on there. which is creating some difference. And in hindsight, what I've not done in the guitar session, which I might have to go back in and do, is adjusted the pitch of one ever so slightly. If you take one up a few cents, it can really help separate the guitars. And I don't think I've done that on this session. Pixie Dust. What's that sound like? Ooh, that sounds good. Okay, oh, I quite like that in the context of a mix. Obviously, we're doubling the volume there by having an extra send of the audio, so let's fade the CLA Epic in. Are we liking Pixie Dust? Yeah. Yeah, just some delay there in the background to help thicken that up. Like I said a few times in this session, David is a wonderful player with a wonderful sound. He just doesn't need much doing to him, to his sound, which is why I use him. Same with Jez. Now, Jez is great because he sends me dry and wet examples. We can't do that with David because of the way we recorded, but we usually get the sounds pretty much dialed in anyway. And I'm now hearing that there's a tail into this bridge with this bridge guitar part. Excuse me. And because I've got a big build-up with the acoustic and the other lead chorus guitar, I don't know if we need that. Let's try it because why not? I'm just going to be as unsubtle as that.
I only see you passing the night.
Right, let's just mute that vocal. That is overbearing, to say the least. I think what I might do is a really sharp cut again, like I did earlier with the other guitar part, so it comes in bang on beat one, gives loads of punch and separation. However, because of the slide, it's a bit of a... It's not got the attack of a sharp strum, which may or may not mean this doesn't work. Yeah, that works quite well. Yeah, nice. All right. So, performance thing or editing thing. I know what I would have done. We would have kept that slide in on the recording just so I can do this and automate it later and have the option. It's always useful to have the options. This is a classic example of when you're an instrumentalist, being aware of the end process. And Dave is more than aware of all this stuff. He does this stuff himself. So he'll... You know, we will have decided, I can't remember, but I'm sure we will have decided to leave that in so we have the option. So being aware of the end process and how what you do in the studio can really affect what other people are doing in the studio. So without that, if I wanted a slide there, I would have had to have imported one from a previous section, which would have involved editing, blah, blah, blah. That would have been boring and slow. However, we've got the option, but I think I prefer it without. Yeah, that comes in and it's punchy. I like that. Let's just bin all that off. At the end. All right, so I think the only thing to do with the guitars now is, doing the panning underneath the organs solo, but I'm going to do that off camera because that'll be very dull to watch. Let's just double check this slide at the end. Oh yeah, we did that. Definitely want more level on that. Turn the groups on, so these should go at the same time. Yes. Just going to check the CLA plugin. Cool. Right. I think that's all I'm going to do to the guitars at the moment. I think the track's coming together slowly. Not quite sure I'm happy with the snare sound. I'm not getting enough punch out of the kick. But I think it works with the song. That's a stylistic preference. Send me your music production questions on comments on the videos. Ooh, and I forgot to say, my review of the Black Lion audio interface is out. I put that out yesterday, or Monday even. And it's an interesting interface. And there's Jesse Smith performing on that, showcasing that audio interface and how it sounds, because specifications-wise, it's not that great. Sound-wise, it is that great. So it's a bit of a toss-up. For me, it just doesn't have any features that are useful for a home studio, so I would not suggest it. I would always suggest the Audient ID14 Mark II. Yeah, Audient ID14 Mark II. Or, obviously, the Apollos. Those are my two go-tos. Right, I'm going to figure out how to get out of this. Let's press save first. That could be a disaster. And then we're going to see my crazy little screen. And then we can see full screen again. All right, it's been a pleasure. It's been emotional. I'm going to try and get better soon. I may or may not be here next week. I might have a paid job on I have to do. TBC. I'll let you know. Might do a live stream on a Tuesday night instead. Rock the boat. Why not? Look after yourselves. And I will see you all very soon. End stream.